Chapter 19, Building a Home and a Family. I decided to choose the vocation of farming. I soon saw the necessity of me getting some implements to do the work with, so I got myself a plow and made a harrow out of some cross pieces of wood, and then got the village blacksmith to make some teeth, which I put in the cross pieces of wood. We lived with Peter Madsen, and I leased his farm, and got busy at once in getting the ground in readiness for spring seeding. As soon as the weather was warm enough, I planted the crops, which consisted of wheat, oats, and potatoes. I ran up against many obstacles, for I had never done much of this kind of work before. When I would get in a tight place, I could always go to Peter, and he would gladly help me out, sometimes giving me a hand. I soon learned all there was to learn about my newly chosen profession and got along just fine. It was time for me to build a house for my wife to live in, as we could not continue to live right in with Brother Madsen and his large family. I went down to the river, which was nearby, and got me a few loads of long willows. They were about an inch thick at the butt and tapered off gradually to the top, some 20 feet long. These I wove in between posts or stakes that I had driven into the ground. After I'd woven the willows to the desired height, about 7 feet, I then plastered the walls both on the inside and outside with clay I dug nearby. The clay plaster made the house perfectly airtight. The roof was covered with straw and dirt, and we had old Mother Earth for a floor. Of course, I left a hole for a window and door, and how hard it was to get a piece of glass. We could not even buy it for money. We were happier being to ourselves in our own home. We, of course, had some furniture and made some more, so we were recognized as some of the better class in the community. But my, what a contrast living in Zion than in Babylon. There we had all the comforts, and here we existed on the meager necessities. In this house, 4 of our children were born: Josepha, Henry, Ephraim, and Walter. I always disliked very much to work for someone else, so I began looking around for some suitable land that I could get and have for myself. I inquired of several of the brethren, and they advised me to go here and go there. I had taken a liking to this part of the country, that is, Lake Bottoms, as it was called, and afterward named Lake View. It was bordering the shore of Utah Lake. I was therefore persuaded by some of the brethren to take up homesteading on the shore of the lake about a mile north of the mouth of the Provo River. I, of course, had to take out my first citizenship papers from Washington before I could enter the land. The entry requirements for homesteading are 5 years residence and improvement on the claim, which I did, and then I received a patent deed from the federal government. I became a full-fledged American citizen, of which I have been proud always, and considered it a very high honor to be a citizen of this great commonwealth. I got busy at once after I got my permit and built our second house and moved in. This house consisted of logs that were squared and made quite smooth. They were about 4 inches by 16 feet long. They were set on the top of each other. It was a one-room house, and the roof was also covered with reeds and dirt. The reeds coming from Utah Lake shore, where the reeds grew in abundance. And in this house, Mother and Ephraim lived, Well, I and Josepha stayed in the willow house, for I was still farming Brother Madson's farm. In this log house, we were blessed with the welcomed arrival of another brown-eyed girl whom we called Emma. Later, we would welcome the arrival of 3 more children, Albert, Harriet, and John. Soon after I entered this homestead, I could see that it was no place to make a home. So I bought 5 acres of good land from a neighbor, George Scott, and there built another home. This home was more substantial, being built out of squared hewn logs, which I hauled from the sawmill in the canyon and afterwards built an addition in the front, built of lumber. I built it all myself, lumber on the outside, lined with adobe and plastered on the inside. We were real comfortable and had one of the finest places in the community. We moved into this home in 1886.